Turns out it is important to unmute yourself when talking. Well, good morning everyone. Hello, Hammonberry. Lovely Sunday to you too. Welcome to another stream. Happy to have you here. Today, I thought is the last stream of the month. So it probably makes sense to do what we usually do and do one community stream. So, as you know, if you've been here for a couple of times, generally almost every month we have a theme on the Discord server where it's not really a challenge usually, it's more of a kind of topic to explore. And for April it was a one line in April challenge. So the point is to draw something with one line. So one line meaning don't lift your pen or whatever medium you're using. I did a few of those already throughout April. I kind of started doing it every day, but then got out of sync with work and other projects, so I just did it on. But if you did it once, that's already a great outcome of the challenge. If you haven't done it once yet, this is your chance. One line is all it takes to join the challenge. The rules are obviously made up and don't matter, as always with challenges, but in general, one line to draw a picture or something maybe recognizable would be the minimum. So during the month of April, I already explored a few directions. Let's set challenge. So when people join, they know we're made of. Also haven't posted an announcement anywhere. Well, that's alright. I think it auto posts on Discord. So I guess we can start with like a warm-up for the hand. Because lines, if you're trying to do something bigger with one line, in my experience, at least my wrist gets really tired after a while of holding the line. So first we can just see what kind of lines we can get. So we can get straight lines, obviously. We can zigzag them, we can make them more edgy. We can make them change thickness, be harder and softer. If we extend, depending on the tool those lines also can be like thinner, thicker. Well, that didn't go as planned. Let's try a different. So like this watercolor brush marker, you can kind of do a very thin line, not with the older one, but I have a new fresh one, and then you can do like a super thick line, end up with a thin line again. So I would consider that a line. Well, trouble begins when you start splitting the line. So if you're doing like a dashed line, we still call it a line, even though it's more of a collection of lines. And then you can, I guess, customize it with style. You still kind of, as a human eye, you can still follow the line. So I guess that's when what defines the line, if it's like a continuous collection of things that you can follow reasonably. And then, you know, you can do them slowly and meticulously, trying to be maybe more precise with the angle and what you're drawing, but you can also just swoop, and if you know what you're drawing, you know, these gesture drawings where you just have like a head and a dancing pregnant fairy appears. I'm not great at gesture drawings, but you get the idea, you know, these quick lines that just indicate the movement. But those are kind of all standard lines, you know, just a shape that keeps going, and you can twist it and turn it. But what you can also do with the line is twist it and turn it so much that it becomes a two-dimensional shape. So for example, if you do something like this, then suddenly this one line becomes kind of like a rectangle. And you can do the same with the simple one is, I guess, doing spirals. You do a very tight spiral, just looks like a circle. So that you can use for your advantage if you're drawing some kind of, if you're drawing a tree. Let's keep it simple. You can just do a tree crown, add a stick at the bottom, and you have a tree. Or you could combine the two and maybe, you know, draw like a iris with like this, and then going to the line. Don't know what else is good here with the face, but you could kind of use this method of scribbling or organized scribbling to add shading, for example. So if you imagine this being still the one line, you could say here I will zigzagged part, so it's gonna be the shadow. You know what I mean? So once you get past these basic lines that kind of just float out of you automatically and start thinking, what else can a line do? That's when stuff becomes more interesting, I think, or at least interesting to play with. So you can combine those techniques into, oh, I don't know, this is kind of looks like half of a phone. You know, these old phones with the squiggly cable, but this one. So far, most of these lines don't intersect. That's also another thing we didn't explore. So, you know, if this is just kind of one silhouette or one object, you can draw maybe like a vase like this, but you can also draw it I don't know if it adds it dimensionality, but let's say it does. Or, you know, you can do a complete silhouette of the vase, maybe changing directions just to keep it more interesting. But this is sort of like a level, I guess this is level 0 when it's just lines, and this would be level 1 when it's an object. And kind of lines and shapes made out of lines. This is all level 0. Then when you're making an actual object, that's a level 1. But then you might want to have like a whole scene. So if you think about your canvas here, maybe you want to have like a landscape with some trees here. I'm just trying to translate what maybe is happening in the head and I'm thinking about this. So I can imagine some sort of a landscape, maybe in this case some trees in the foreground and like a mountain in the background. Let's keep it simple. This image in my head has few different objects that are not really connected. So if I would draw it with one line, I need to come up with ways to connect those objects. And in my head, I'm trying to make the connection less noticeable or less obvious than the objects themselves. Because, you know, like if you have a tree here and a house here, if they're connected with the same line of kind of the same thickness, then they turn into one object. Whereas if you maybe make the tree and the house more silhouette, then you can kind of more easily distinguish that these are two different objects, but together in one scene. So that's what I mean by connections. So in this case, maybe I start on the left and then kind of do one tree, another tree, and then I will go back to the horizon line and draw a mountain from there. So I'm using the horizon line that I'm sort of I sort of need anyway if I want to separate the ground with the sky. So I'm using already something that would exist just to connect the objects between the two. And I could also go kind of more shape direction, like if you continue this line and then make the shapes very dark, but then continue the line and make the mountain also a shape, but more of a lighter color. This kind of gives you some variety in importance of items you're trying to depict. And then you can, from here, you can go sort of in meta direction and just use the framing of your drawing as excuse me, as part of your one line. So maybe you start in the bottom left and kind of go this side, go up a little bit. Maybe we add like a foreground element, a bush. I will keep it simple because I'm drawing it so small, but when we get to the next page and go a bit bigger, and maybe here we add like a forest sticking out from this side, and the horizon line, some mountains in the distance. Maybe there are some things more distant. And when we get to the top, we can also say, okay, let's get a huge cloud here. Then we complete the frame. So this way you can use the frame itself to connect unconnected elements. To really use that, you would need to kind of think in this foreground, midground, background. So if something is going off the frame, you can kind of use the frame side to connect the other element. I think this is more or less everything I've learned this month about the one line. Maybe we flip this and try some lines with other media, because for now we have been only working with the trusty graphite pencil, but then we have also these brush pens that you can kind of use the pressure to make different shapes. This one is a bit old and unruly, but still it sort of works. I think for more variety in thickness, a water brush would be better because you can start very thin and then slowly build up, and then you can start pressing and adding water. So for like an ultimate thickness variation, I think a water brush is a good idea. Then obviously we have these just colored pencils that don't really offer anything new besides just color. Color is fine. You can use color for something. And then, of course, we also have the micro fine liners, I guess. Liners. They don't have any thickness variation, but they're pretty good for, you know, maybe more controlled lines and clear. So sometimes, you know, I would start with the pencil sketch and then do a line work on top. And they come in different thicknesses, so that's also pretty neat. Then we have this kind of markers that you could also flip from from sort of medium thickness to very big thickness to very thin line with just the edge of this. So this also gives you a bit of a variety, but more in kind of steps. So you have the thinnest line, medium, and the thickest. I guess that will require a lot of flipping of the marker to get it going. And finally, we have Posca pens. They are basically acrylic markers, and at least I don't produce much of a variation of line thickness. Plus, these are pretty dry. You can press harder to make more paint to come out, but with with that you also are going through markers pretty fast. There you go, the Viking ship. So with all of these, we also completely missed the opportunity to think about straight lines more carefully. You know, you could use a ruler to draw the one line. So you can start a line, make sure that you're pressing hard enough, then pause for a second, change the direction, and go that way, go this way, like this, but not completely because we want to have one line feel here, then maybe there. If we can go this direction again. And no, I think I'm drawing a window. And maybe because it's a window, we can add like a plan. It's gonna be a square. Actually, now we can let go and just do a plant. Something like this. You know, rulers is also a tool you could use. And finally, I don't know if you know these, but I found this in some, was it €1 shop or something like that, and bought it a while ago, completely forgot I have them, didn't use them for anything, but these theoretically are also one-line things. So you have this big circle, you have the small circle and the gears connecting them, and then you try to keep everything very still, pick one of the holes, and then just go around it. I don't know if you had these as a kid. I can't remember if I had, but I remember seeing them. That is also a one-line thing, which doesn't give you much of anything except of nice shape, but you can use that as your inspiration, kind of, to think about how would you draw this kind of shapes if you're in the realm of, maybe if you're drawing a flower. You know, so you could use these skills that you learn in other tools to transfer them to the current challenge. So I think now we can just draw one big line and call it a day. Maybe not just one, but we'll see. Been awfully quiet lately on the streams, so I wonder if rising temperatures and better weather is calling people outside. We should incorporate nightly streams more often rather than morning. I like the Sunday morning slots too, but if the regulars who used to join can't join anymore. Maybe we need to open another window. By the way, if you're on Twitch, you can say hi in chat and then it will show up on the stream. If you're on YouTube, I still read your messages and can answer them, but they don't appear on stream, so it's on me. So Hummingberry on YouTube says, I loved these spiral things as a kid. I had one from Tupperware brand. Even these guys produce them in 5 90s. Tupperware. Well, I guess they have a lot of plastic that they probably can use in different ways. Okay, I will try to do this page as one line, but I will do it in 2 passes. I will first do one line in pencil and then we will go over with the pen and correct the missed opportunities or mistakes. So I'm thinking here somewhere, like the frame started here, go down, then maybe there are some. I like drawing clouds with one line, you know, something about them being squiggly, and my hand naturally wanting to do squiggly lines. I think works there. So we have the big couple of clouds here, maybe another one sticking out. Here. And then I can add some space and go. I'm imagining sort of a Dutch landscape, you know, some fields with village in the distance or a bunch of windmills. Now these would be then, yes, the canals. And we can just add something in the foreground here, some bushes, and call it a day, I guess. Kind of hard to see with the pencil, but I will go over with the pen, say one line length. So now we can go over with a thin micro line. Maybe this time we go in the other direction, so I start here. And also, just as an experiment, let's try out using the ruler for the frame. So we can at least align it to the outside of the painting. These are the moments, you know, when you're trying to do this kind of stuff. You're asking yourself, or I'm asking myself, what am I doing with it? But the line must go on, so and the other thing we can do here, we can let go of the frame and just add the foreground elements here. Maybe some flowers more up close. And then we can go over it the other side and add another layer. So once we get here, the edge, we can add more, like not really middle ground, it's still foreground, I guess, but kind of more shapeless bushes there. Uh-oh. Hey, drop one. Well, now it's technically not one line, or at least not uninterrupted. Not uninterrupted in time, let's put it this way. Because in space it's still pretty much the same line. Maybe we can add some detail here. Okay, so grass or some bushes that are blocking the view of the canal, just to give it a bit more dimension. Now we get back to the rusty ruler. I don't know if I'm using it, but it is what it is. I think I went too far. So back down. Let's actually add more branch here. Sticking. Maybe with the bird. Some trees in the distance. Oh, another line break. It's important to keep adjusting the position of the arm and the hand when you're doing this, because otherwise you get these interruptions of the line because the line position changes. And because I'm having this windmill kind of on the foreground, I don't want to draw the line of the forest through it, so that's why I went around there. In case you were curious. We can also put some of those clouds in front of themselves with these kind of folds. Maybe they look a little bit more three-dimensional. Something like this, and then maybe we go over it with the thicker one. And once that's done, I think we will go into an ambient session on our trusty groove box. And once that's done, it's done. Actually, let me go over with the brush pen. That might be more fun, because we can control the line a little bit. Thickness. So we can start kind of here. Maybe we add frame to it. Set the frame. With the brush pen of this size, it's gonna be harder because I will have to go over stuff with my wrist. Although we just block this around. And one, let's also maybe paint out that kind of as if they have lighting. So dark, just the top area would be like a rim lighting in the clouds. And then we can go to the other side. Same trick to these clouds and the bird silhouette. Well, this is it. This is the one line landscape. Yes, we all know it's not one line, even except the pencil. I think the pencil sketch was actually one line. The pen is 2 lines, and the water brush is a mess because it kept flipping down. But I think this is where we will call the sketching part or drawing part of the stream complete. Oh, actually it's 26 or 6. Look at that. So let's switch to the music and do some ambient improvisation. You don't mind? Today is a bit of a shorter, relaxing stream, following up on this community challenge we had. And I guess we can think of some kind of metaphor for this online challenge in the scope of musical improvisation. Well, so if you're new to this, the last portion of the stream is a live improvisation on MC101 Groovebox, this one. So we will not go into what we had before. We will start there, but I will try to do something ambient, meditative. Hope you enjoy, and I will see you on the side of this jam. Well, well, well. Look at this. Another successful stream. Thank you all for hanging out with me. Thanks for stopping by. If you enjoyed what you saw here, consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, joining the Discord community to stay up to date with what's happening here. With that, I wish you a great Sunday ahead and a nice week, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.